In 2020, overall hate crime numbers declined by 6% from 2019. For the Asian community, hate crime numbers skyrocketed by 145%. Activists in California acknowledged these rising numbers and began the Stop Asian Hate movement to raise awareness and address growing anti-Asian sentiment during the COVID-19 pandemic. The movement gained traction during the spring of 2021, when attacks against Asians gained attention on social and mainstream media.
It is heartbreaking to read the news stories of these crimes.
On May 20th, 2021, Congress passed the COVID-19 Hate Crimes Act, a law dedicated to improving hate crime enforcement and incident reporting.
In today's fairly polarized, somewhat gridlocked environment, on a bipartisan basis, Congress was able to come together and reach agreement relatively quickly.
While a bipartisan success, the federal legislation was limited in scope.
What it does do are often the kinds of things that Congress can do quickly. One is directing the Attorney General to take certain actions, including designating one specific Justice Department official to take charge of reviewing quickly any and all allegations of hate crimes committed against Asian Americans. The Act also provides for certain grants to be administered through the DOJ in order to try to fund efforts to reduce the recent increase in violence and discrimination against Asian Americans.
The law did have the benefit of national impact. Generally, the prosecution of hate crimes depends on local politics.
Given the variation in sort of elected officials and also the electorate and how they approach hate crimes, there's a huge disparity among what's prosecuted as a hate crime.
The way that you address an issue in cities where there are lots and lots of Asian Americans, the kind of outreach that you are going to do and the critical mass that you already have there is going to present very differently from other pockets of the United States where you just have very few Asian Americans.
Even in cities with large Asian populations, the rate of hate crime prosecutions can be low. In New York City, the NYPD received 118 Asian hate crime reports by October 2021, but had only prosecuted one by that time, a Taiwanese man accused of writing anti-Chinese graffiti in Queens. One of the greatest barriers to prosecution is the difficulty in proving intent.
Hate crimes really go to the intent of the perpetrator.
Only if there's evidence of that intent that's materialized by graffiti, by verbalized words, by actions or behaviors that connote that racism, does that qualify those elements as that biased motive underpinning the hate crimes.
This lack of enforcement contributes to the underreporting of Asian hate crimes.
But across the board, what we see for all groups of color, no more than 50% feel comfortable reporting a hate crime to law enforcement. Sometimes they're afraid that their concerns won't be taken seriously and they won't get justice.
The police don't always take it down and report it as an anti-Asian hate crime.
They also may not be able to take off work in order to go to different agencies or the court and have to repeat their story, where they're going to get re-traumatized each time.
They don't want more publicity. And so when the newspapers come calling and the prosecutors come calling, they turn down those calls.
Campaigns like the Stop Asian Hate movement can encourage victims to come forward. In 2021, the FBI received 8,052 reports of Asian hate crimes that had occurred in 2020, exhibiting a delay in reporting, and similar patterns were found in other reporting databases. Beyond criminal prosecution, experts generally agree that education is essential to tackling racism against Asians.
So we know the hurdles we face. The question for us here is, what can we do about them? One of the places that starts is with education.
Education dispels ignorance. So it behooves our students, K through 12, in colleges and universities, and also the teachers, faculty, and administrators to better understand that history and to integrate it into the mainstream curriculum.
In places like Illinois, bills have been passed to teach Asian American history, to require Asian American history as part of public school education.
A lot of the change and a lot of the education and a lot of the prevention just has to take place at a local and state level. It's much harder to address an issue from an abstract level than it is to start one person at a time, one encounter at a time, one relatively small community at a time.
By raising awareness and showing solidarity, this is where the federal legislation can have an impact.
It's really important to have sort of public figures speak out against anti-Asian hate crimes, because one of the sort of reasons why we have anti-Asian hate crimes in general across history is this perception that Asians are other, that we're not American.
Due to difficulties in proving intent, local enforcement bias, and underreporting, the COVID-19 Hate Crimes Act can only go so far. Its passage did focus attention on the issue and will help track cases nationally. However, to truly combat racism against Asians in the United States, we need to continue educating and raising public awareness at a local, state, and national level.